my name is Zhi, co-founder of Rework, and today we'll be doing a technical breakdown of the Outbound Travel Pack 30 liters, which is what I have with me over here. If you would like to see the full feature set of this product, you should check out our product walkthrough video, which we have linked somewhere down below. This video will just go through some of the design decisions that we made to the bag, so that it becomes sort of what you see right here. So yeah, let's just get started. The first thing we should establish is some of the goals that we had with this bag. So the first thing is that we wanted this Outbound 30 liters to be pretty feature rich. So we wanted a good balance of the number of features that you get, such as a dedicated laptop compartment, some quick access pockets. So these things we did not want to compromise. At the same time, this leads us into our second goal, which is weight. Weight was definitely still a priority for us. We didn't want this to be heavy. And so it comes in at 2.5 pounds or about 1.14 kilograms. A disclaimer here is that we're not trying to make the lightest bag. If that's our goal, we would have made a lot of changes to the actual design of it. Our goal is just to not make it heavy. And then the last goal that we have is to not really compromise on the comfort of the bag, in expense for just weight savings. So we definitely spend quite a bit of time on the harness system to try to make it pretty comfortable for an urban travel backpack. So this is the harness system, and it's probably the part of the bag that we spend the most amount of time trying to fine-tune how it feels. And so the main thing to probably go through is what we used for the overall structure of the back panel, and that would be a steel wireframe. So there is a U-shaped wireframe that goes around the perimeter of the bag, and there's definitely quite a few reasons as to why we use the wireframe. Just give me a second here. So here I have with me a wireframe and a plastic sheet. This wireframe is not the one in the bag. We made some changes. This is just a early mock-up of the wireframe, just to illustrate the point. So the reason why we went with a wireframe is because of the fact that it's very resistant to bending and has a lot of stiffness to it. What we mean by this is that when you actually try to bend the wireframe, you can see that there's a lot of elasticity and it returns back into its original shape and form. And we find that this is very essential when you pair it with the load lifters that come with the bag as well. When you're trying to bend the wireframe, such as when you're pulling the load lifters and tightening it up, you're pulling the top of the wireframe in, and as you're doing so, the wireframe does not want to bend, and so it's actually pulling the bottom part of the wireframe out as well. And so when you translate this to putting it into the back panel of a backpack, you're effectively pulling the load away from the lower back portion, the lower of the bag, and bringing it up to the upper back portion. So you're really getting that transfer of load up to the upper body so that it's closer and in line with your center of gravity better. Now you can compare this to, say, like a plastic sheet. This is just a random plastic sheet that we have. The issue with a plastic sheet is that it's not very resistant to bending and there isn't much stiffness to it. As you can see, when I bend it, it's just bending and there isn't really much elasticity to it. It doesn't go back to its original shape that well. It's just more of a plastic deformation. This kind of illustrates the point that when I bend this, when I bend the top of the plastic sheet, the bottom doesn't really want to come back up. It doesn't go back to its original shape. And so when you implement a plastic sheet to the frame sheet as the back panel, and you kind of pair that with the load lifters, and when you pull the load lifters tight, you're really just pulling the top of the plastic sheet kind of inwards and not actually pulling the weight from the lower back portion up to the upper back portion. And so you still kind of get that pulling away sensation from the bag, even though the load lifters are engaged all the way. This is really the main reason as to why we went with the wireframe, as when you pull the load lifters in, you can really feel like the weight kind of pivoting away from the lower back up to the upper back region, so that it doesn't have that pullback feeling that you might get. Now, that's not to say that, like a backpack needs a wireframe in order for the load lifters to be effective. You can definitely get by and have the same sort of pivoting of load feel if the bag is packed out all the way. So like the bag is packed out all the way and you're using kind of the internal items inside the bag as the sort of stiff frame, and that helps to allow the load lifters to function quite well as well. And I think that's why a lot of people might find even backpacks or travel backpacks with a plastic frame sheet that has load lifters for the load lifters to still be pretty effective. And that's because they actually pack out the bag all the way. But once you actually don't pack out the bag like to its full capacity, and it's not necessarily super packed out, you don't get that inherent internal frame from your items inside the bag, and so the lifters are really not doing anything to help pull the weight closer to your body. So yeah, that's just kind of the differences that we found between the wireframe and the plastic sheet, and ultimately why we went with the wireframe. Another reason as to why I guess we went with the wireframe is that it's a lot lighter when compared to just like a full plastic frame sheet for the entire back panel. And then weight, as we said in the beginning, was a goal. That was something that was very beneficial for us, as we were able to save, a few grams, a couple, things like 80 grams or so from switching from the plastic sheet to a wireframe. So that helps with just overall weight savings. Another thing to mention, because of the fact that it's so sort of stiff and resistant to bending, it's not ideal to use a single plain wireframe without any curvature to it and slap it onto the back panel. When you pull the load lifters in, you would really feel a lot of compression to your body, and that's not something that we would want, as that might cause a bit of strain to your chest region. What we did is that we implemented a bit of a S-shaped curve to the back panel, so it kind of conforms to the shape of your spine a bit better, so that when you're wearing it, it's just a bit more comfortable. The last thing to note is that we kind of touched on briefly just now. It's a U-shaped wireframe design. The mock-up I have with me over here, it's a pyramidal style frame. So the wireframe goes all the way to the bottom. In this one, there isn't the wireframe component at the base of the bag. And the reason for this is really pretty simple. When we originally tried such a full pyramidal style frame, because of the fact that this wireframe is pretty thin at the bottom, it was like pushing onto the bottom edge of the back panel a lot. And in some instances, you can actually feel this edge on your lower back. But more than that, this bottom portion of the wireframe really causes this back panel to be like a lot higher than the front panel, and so it really does not like to stand at all. We're not saying that we designed this bag to be a very good self-standing bag. That's not really one of the goals. If you pack it well, it can certainly stand, but that's not a goal that we had. But with the full pyramid design, it definitely did not want to stand like a lot of times. And so by making it U-shaped and just adding a small little kind of plastic sheet reinforcement at the bottom here, we find that it's a much better balance in terms of getting the advantages of the wireframe, but still, helping the bag to stand relatively nicely if it's packed out quite evenly across the board. Moving on to the next topic, that would be the decision to not include a hip belt, or the decision to not allow an addition of a hip belt. And so we did, definitely think about this, but there are a few reasons as to why we omitted such an inclusion. The first one being that for a 30-liter backpack size, we did not feel like a hip belt was necessary for the amount of load that you are potentially going to carry. Beyond that, a hip belt only kind of works effectively if you have a torso adjustable harness system. What we mean by this is that everyone's torso length is different, and so the shoulder straps need to be set up in such a way where you can adjust the height of it in relation to the entire back panel. This is not something that we designed for this backpack, as that would add complexity and ultimately a lot of weight. And when weight was definitely a factor for this product, we decided to omit such a feature. Of course, I know that some customers might just want the option to include like 2 loops at the bottom of the bag, just to add on like a third-party hip belt to this backpack. But again, we just feel like in general, hip belts need to be done well in order for it to be effective. And adding 2 loops to the base of the backpack here with just like a third-party hip belt is not really gonna do that big of a difference or help alleviate a lot of weight off your shoulders. I think the connection point is also something that needs to be engineered to be robust and able to transfer the load from the rest of the bag onto your hips. And so that's kind of the reason as to why we didn't include a hip belt. Now, that's not to say that we're never going to be doing a hip belt for any of our bags. For backpacks beyond this size, that's definitely, or a adjustable harness system with a hip belt that actually effectively transfers load, is definitely something that we will be thinking about. But yeah, that's just kind of where we're at with just hip belts in general. Now, the last feature to the harness system or the back panel region that we did not include is the ability to stow away the shoulder straps. So I think that's a pretty popular feature for a lot of backpacks. But again, it kind of ties back to point number 2, which is overall weight. Adding a stowable feature would add complexity to overall back panel design, and as a result, add weight. A kind of hack or solution I'm sure many of you might be familiar with is that you can actually just stow the shoulder straps into the luggage pass-through as kind of a middle ground compromise between like a full stowable system and just helping to keep the backpack straps like tucked in nicely. So that's kind of an option if that's something that you're looking for. The next topic to talk about would be the handles. So there is handles on all edges or all sides of the bag. There is one on the top, located at the center of the top panel here, or close to the center of the top panel, just for better overall weight distribution when you're carrying the bag, so it carries better. Because of the fact that it's at the center here, it's not a good place for when you want to hang your bag on a hook, and so we did include a dedicated webbing loop at the back of the bag for that purpose. On the bottom of the bag, there's also a simple nylon webbing piece here, just for you to be able to grab the bag out from like an overhead cabin, just for that leverage point. And then we do include 2 sort of side handles. So these again serve as leverage points for when you want to maneuver the bag around, when you're grabbing it, things of that nature. And some of you might be wondering as to why we did not include the side handles on the actual side panel of the bag. There's definitely quite a few reasons for this. The bag is actually unlined in areas that do not need to be lined. This again goes back to point number 2 about weight. We tried to not use lining in portions that did not need lining to cut as much weight as possible. This means that the side panel here doesn't have lining, as you can see. So because of the fact that it doesn't have lining, we had troubles trying to put the side handles onto the side panel here and still have it look nice on the inside, clean and nice. And so we just kind of disregarded that idea and kind of place it on the back over here. Of course, there are downsides to putting the handle here. First and foremost, when you're actually carrying the bag on the side handles, the sort of weight distribution of the bag isn't as even, and so it's not as comfortable to use in that sense. But for us, we kind of implemented the side handles more as a leverage point to move the bag around, and the main handle is still more of the top handle. And so we didn't really find this con to really impact the usability of the backpack that much. There's another pro to adding the side handle on the back here. We made it long enough such that you can use it as a horizontal luggage pass-through. So you can put your bag in this way if you would like. By default, our luggage pass-through is vertical, so the bag sits vertical on your luggage. But some people don't like this. It kind of gets in the way of the handle, and from a sort of center of gravity point of view, having the bag sideways on your luggage brings the center of gravity down a lot lower, and it makes moving the luggage around easier. And so we kind of give you 2 options depending on what you want. Obviously, the vertical one will be easier to put in. The side one is a bit more cumbersome to put in, but it's definitely still doable and something that you can do if you want to do so. Moving on to the last feature we'll kind of talk about, it will be the side pockets. As you can see, or if you're familiar with our Toshi Pack 20 liters, the design is very similar with a few changes. With the Toshi Pack 20 liters, the fabric wraps around all the way to the bottom and gets stitched at the bottom again. Over here, we kind of cut the fabric right at the end of where the elastic webbing is. This just helps to cut even more fabric just to save on weight. Certain features like the drainage port is still kept. This just allows water to egress out in the event that you got caught in some sort of downpour, so that water doesn't just collect in the pocket. Now again, similar to a Toshi Pack, we went with the exterior fabric material for the bag just to keep the overall profile very sleek and cohesive, as we like the look of it a lot better. I know that a lot of people prefer spandex or stretch mesh fabric materials. Ultimately, we're still going against such a decision because we are not sure about the long-term durability of such fabrics, as they tend to not be as abrasion resistant, and they're probably the first points on the exterior of the bag to get snagged on things and for it to kind of tear through all the way. Using the exterior fabric here, which is an 840 denier. It just makes it a lot more durable so that you don't run into such issues in the long term. So that concludes this technical breakdown video. There's obviously still a lot of areas of the bag that we spend a lot of time ironing the kinks out for. But if we were to talk about all these points, this video would probably never end. As always, if you have any questions about design or the overall construction or why we chose to design the bag this way, you can always leave such questions down in the comment section below and we will try our best to answer them. But yeah, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye!